Welcome back. Cattle producers are continuously looking for ways to improve their bottom line. And given today's commodity prices, feed efficiency plays a big role in the profitability of individual animals. But tracking that is no easy task. Fortunately, a USDA-funded program called the National Program for the Genetic Improvement of Feed Efficiency in Beef Cattle is in the process of collecting valuable data which can help producers across the country increase feed efficiency in their own herds. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Matt Fleck has more.
When you think about feed with respect to cattle production, it's the primary capital input regardless of what sector of the industry you're looking at, whether it's cow-calf or in the feedlot. And so it's an important component that we need to get right.
During a time when feed costs are at record high prices, producers are paying close attention to feed efficiency and how it affects their bottom line.
Feed costs is a huge obstacle when it comes to the cow-calf sector or the feeding sector, all the way through the chain. And so anything that we can do to basically produce more pounds of beef with less feed is going to make us all more profitable, and also make it more available to consumers, that hopefully we can continue to produce that high quality protein at a lower cost.
I think that everybody looks at the performance and the pound of gain that you got out of those cattle, but you also have to look at what it costs you to put it there.
Figuring out the science behind producing more beef with less feed is extremely challenging, especially because tracking how much an individual animal eats is nearly impossible for many cattlemen.
A calf, a beef animal, half of his weight was got on grass much of the time with his mother. So that's nearly impossible to get intake data. Then we intake data because of our operations that are in large feedlots, and to get individual feed intake not only was very difficult, but it was very expensive.
A federally funded grant through the USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture is addressing this difficult problem and finding ways to improve feed efficiency in cattle by tracking feed intake in a controlled setting.
We've invested a lot of money in infrastructure to be able to record individual feeding events at the animal's own natural behavior, anytime, day or night. We can record it. We can record the animals that come in 10, 12 times a day and eat very heavily, to the animals that come in all day long and nibble, and try to decide if there's a feed efficiency component to that, and just really look into that kind of thing and try to help tie that back to the industry and how that we can become more efficient across the board.
We will produce about 8,000 individuals that we have individual animal feed intake data on, and we'll use those animals to come up with molecular estimates of breeding value that will be disseminated to people in the industry that they can use to essentially accomplish what they want, and that is to select for animals that are more efficient at converting feed into growth.
Understanding what makes cattle efficient at converting feed into growth is important across all sectors of the beef industry, but it's especially important for feedlot owners.
In the feedlot, feed efficiency is critical. You know, if you look at what really makes a particular pen of cattle profitable in the feedlot, it's basically based on the value of the cattle when they're sold, which relates to the carcass weight, their carcass quality, and their yield grade or retail product, and the cost of production. And feed efficiency, aside from the cost of the feed itself, is really the factor that drives that cost of production. So those two factors are used together for cattle feeders to determine what they'll pay for a pen of cattle, and then ultimately whether that pen is profitable or not.
Feed efficiency in a feedlot can vary based on management decisions. Everything from the type of ration used to the overall herd health determines if a particular group of cattle are feed efficient.
They've made some strides in different ways in improving feed efficiency, mostly through changes in energy level of the diet, new technologies that have come along like implants and certain feed additives that improve feed efficiency, grain processing, feed bunk management, cattle health. All of those things work together to determine what the feed efficiency of a particular pen of cattle are.
But when we talk about feed efficiency, we are in fact also talking about gain. When we're thinking about feed conversion and nutrition and with respect to feed efficiency, we have to take into that whole picture both the feed resources as well as the animal's ability to convert that feed.
cattle that do not gain won't provide the top quality end product that today's consumers have come to expect. That's why it's important to study feed efficiency on the molecular level. Genomic research is evolving into a precise tool for the entire cattle industry to rely on by providing new selection options.
We need to understand the basic biology that's driving those changes in efficiency. What we're doing here is we're doing a lot of work on looking at individual feed intake and growth of animals, and then looking at genomic scans for looking for genes that are associated with regulation of feed intake and regulation of growth, and trying to come up with those component traits, and then looking at putting those into selection indexes, as opposed to just looking at these ratios or an index of feed efficiency.
We're trying to actually identify ways that we can measure the phenotype so that we can then move from the phenotype to the genotype of those animals and come up with expected progeny differences for feed efficiency that the producers can use to actually select for animals that are going to convert to feed to gain more efficiently than others.
While these selection tools can benefit all the segments of the beef industry, being able to have this technology at the feedlot level has the potential to change the way producers buy and sell calves.
The results of the work that the nutritionists on this project are doing will help us determine how we might change potential management once the genomic tools are determined to separate more efficient from less efficient cattle in the feedlot.
We've got a huge opportunity to use some of these genomic tools just in understanding how to feed cattle when we bring them into the feedlot, understanding what their genetic potential is, putting them into the right marketing systems as they come in as calves, so that we don't waste a lot of money in feeding calves.
Arming producers with the tools to select for feed-efficient cattle not only makes their job a little easier, but ultimately means more money in their pockets.
If we can put them in, distribute them into different marketing streams and management strategies using these genomic tools, this is where it's going to have the advantage. We can get past buying calves on coat color and some of these other traits and start looking at what their actual genetic potential is when we get them in the yard, as opposed to taking a guess at it.
Although it's just in the beginning stages, many producers believe the cattle industry is ready for this kind of selection technology.
If you think for a minute that cattlemen are less apt to adopt new technology as compared to people that raise crops, you're wrong. I have complete confidence in the free market system, and I know from my 52 years of selling bulls that new technology and new improvements that will increase profit, you don't have to worry about it. Build it and they will come.
Reporting from the U.S. Meat Animal Research Center in Clay Center, Nebraska, I'm Matt Fleck for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
The USDA grant is only in its second year, but scientists have already gathered lots of valuable information, and it's available to producers. To learn more, visit our website at cattlemantocattleman.org or the project's website at www.beefefficiency.org. And tune in next week for part 2 of our feed efficiency story, where we'll dig deeper into the subject of genomics and genetic selection in the cattle industry.